first of all, I got my
hear.
Tascam recorder, my mic for my iPhone.
Good.
It is incredible.
I knew that would be the right way to go. I gotta tell you.
It is. No, it's great, man. You know what I did? When I first got it, it was a really windy day. I put it on the iPhone and I put a sock over it and bound it with a rubber band. And I went out and shot some video, and then I took it off, and it was, a vast difference. So that was fun. And then I went in the garage where I have an enormous stereo set up. I have my own party in the garage. And because I wanted to test,
Alone.
It's my alone party. It's my alone time. You saw the Muppet movie, just a party of one. And I just wanted to test the audio. Like, how would this do in a concert setting? Because that's critical.
Right.
Anyway, it's fantastic.
And it works well?
I feel like, I just feel like my little Swiss Army knife of a phone became more of a Swiss Army knife.
That's fantastic.
My phone became a Swiss Army knife. Yeah,
it was already a Swiss Army knife.
It already was, and there you go.
That's great.
So there's that, and then we have a guest today.
That was. I love how your intro to our guest was about your Tascam recorder.
No, it's all about me. It's just it's all about passive aggressive me.
I guess
that was a perfect segue.
And it's also all about smooth segues, smooth professional broadcast journalism.
Great setup.
So we do have a guest that we want to talk to today, Mr. Peter Wright.
I'm excited about that.
We have Mr. Devon Stanfield. Devon Dwayne Stanfield.
Hi, Devon.
Hey, how's it going?
Thanks for hanging out with us on Skype, man.
Yeah.
Dane, all of Dane is, this is what Dane says to me about the show this morning. He said, okay, we got to get Devon on because he's doing this. It's really cool. I said, oh, okay. And that's it. That's the end of it. So I am really, really excited to hear because the setup has been big.
Here's what I would like to say. Yeah, we have Devon on because we would love for Devon to give us a little intro into his experience at Singularity University. And I would start by saying, Devon, pretend we know nothing about Singularity University.
That's Oral Roberts' thing, right?
Jerry Falwell's place.
That's a Falwell thing, right? I'm sure that's a Falwell property.
Well, Singularity University. So, a lot of people might have heard about Singularity University through a couple of ways. Through Peter Diamandis, who is the chairman of the X Prize Foundation. Have you guys heard of that?
Big fan of that. Yes.
That's the guy that's going around incentivizing, challenging like contests to be the first so-and-so, like first private space travel, I guess. They created an X Prize of $10 million for the first private operation to go to space and back. And that's what led to, I think it's Virgin Galactic that now has a space program, and you can, for $250,000, you can hitch a ride and just as a tourist there and back again, only 6 minutes in space.
Which is, if you got the money.
If you got the money.
Well, this is the same. Is this the same as SpaceX, the company that just did the Dragon commercial space visit to the International Space Station? That just happened like last week. Is this the same gig?
I don't know all the different. I think it's all related. I think it might be a result of this original challenge.
Okay.
It's totally different from North Korea's experiences in space, I think.
Yeah, I don't know that they submitted for the contest
because they already lost.
Yeah,
that would be but why not?
But it's pretty cool. I guess there was he's sort of studied other challenges in the past, like the Lindenberg challenge. Is that where they had a prize for the first person that can have like a hydrogen floating like a Led Zeppelin? Is that where that came from?
The Hindenburg.
Yeah,
right? Hindenburg. Yeah. That's right.
The Hindenburg was that was the it was.
And Lindbergh was the baby.
Yeah, that was who was not lost on the Hindenburg.
Well, that sounds right to me.
Yeah.
About 9:30 in the morning.
But back to Singularity University.
So back to Singularity University, Peter Diamandis, who started the X Prize Foundation, is one of the co-founders. And then, so some people might have heard about it that way. Then the other guy is Ray Kurzweil, who is sort of considered our modern day Edison, a very well-known inventor. He started inventing, early on, like maybe 5 years old. And Ray Kurzweil is the subject of the movie Transcendent Man, which is about him and his relationship to his father. He kind of wants to bring his father back to life, and then he really wants to extend his life because he's taking all kinds of pills right now so that he can just be alive in another 20 years. When in 20 years, through nanotechnology and all kinds of other technologies, we'll be able to extend human life almost indefinitely. So Singularity is that point, and he predicts that it'll be in 2029, where technology catches up to the sophistication of the human body and brain and surpasses it and merges with human beings.
So if I cut fat out of my diet, continue to hit the gym, and maybe go low on the sugar, I might be around for the same moment in time.
Yes. Yeah,
That's
you
awesome.
got a better chance than Ray does. I think Ray might already be in his 60s. So
well, yeah, he was born in 1948. It's have you read the Age of Intelligent Machines or Singularity?
I haven't read any of his books.
He's an amazing dude. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That makes me more surprised. I haven't heard of the Singularity University, because the movie is going around. It's like Singularity, his Transcendent Man movie is all over the place right now.
Yeah.
And I think you can actually stream it on Netflix right now to see exactly what he's talking about. And that stuff blows me away, especially because when you see him on something, I think it was on Jon Stewart fairly recently, where you hear him talk about, when people challenge him on adding these sorts of technologies, these assistive technologies to the human body, and what it means to put a computer in your body that's going to manage these systems for you. And he says, you're already doing it. I mean, we've been doing it for years with hearing aids, and now we're going to be doing it with eyes and pacemakers. Yeah, and
even in terms of the bio assistances we've had. Inoculation is basically is a very primitive version of we're becoming cyborgs.
Yeah.
So it's already been happening. That's the funny part about it is most of us think linearly, because that's what served us 10,000 years ago when we came from scarcity and survival. But we're on the verge of a coming age of abundance, and our brains don't need to think the same way that they used to, which is all fight or flight. We don't need to think that way anymore. And so Singularity University was founded to try to educate people and CEOs and business leaders and world leaders to start thinking exponentially and not linearly, so that you can sort of see the world where it's going. The world, everything has been progressing at an exponential pace, and wars and famines and things like that don't slow that down. That's unaffected by anything like that.
Well, here's what I got to say. That's, that whole concept to me is very interesting about our adaptive, or the adaptability of the modern brain, I guess, because, we really have the same brain. That it's not a modern brain. I mean, I don't know how evolved our brain is versus 200 years ago, but we certainly live in a very different society on so many levels, on levels that we can't, that I think we're not even, aware of. But I've heard some interesting things recently, like, for instance, there was a discussion the other day about maps and our reliance on GPS systems and maps, Google Maps, and of course, and it comes to the forefront because Apple yesterday, I guess, just announced that they're ditching Google Maps to some degree, and so there's kind of a map wars going on. But everyone's opinion is so anecdotal about. It's sort of like, well, we don't have to memorize phone numbers anymore, therefore we're dumber, and we have maps to rely on, therefore we may be, spatially, our spatial reasoning, may be retarded in some way. But more of the, I guess the more professional opinion is actually evidence is showing that we're growing in our spatial logic and our ability to understand spatial environments, and the fact that we use maps is actually enhancing our brain activity. And I don't know. I think it's very interesting when you talk about all of the things that we're not even aware of that are currently, sort of modern assistants to our physical and our mental experience. Are we adapting? Is it speeding up our evolution? Does it change our brain waves, our brain patterns? I think that's a fascinating concept.
Yeah. Our brain patterns are changing. It's interesting because there's a lot of talk about science and spirituality kind of coming together, merging again. I think it's generally accepted in the science world that people who have an extended community praying for them while they're sick in the hospital have a better chance of surviving than an individual who doesn't. And there's a lot of acceptance in society now that we have forms of ESP and telepathy and things like that.
I don't have that yet. What do I need to do to get that?
You just need to develop it.
I would like to go to there.
But they have tests. They have tests now that are basically proving that thoughts can certainly influence things. Like
is this intersection of this sort of transcendental thinking and technology the foundation for Singularity University?
Yeah, Singularity University is not just about educating people and leaders about it, but inspiring whoever has a brilliant idea. They want you to come to their university for a 10-week course and help develop that idea. If your idea is one that you think can affect 1 billion people, then they want to assist you with it, with all their resources and sort of create a brain trust of all different kinds of resources.
So that's the low bar, I guess, is the 1 billion people.
Billion people. So that's what they mean by the 10 to the 9th plus. Like that's what their projects are.
Yes, exactly. 10 to the 9th plus.
Okay. All right.
People.
Okay. So that's you go to this thing for 10 weeks and you have to be accepted, like your idea has to be accepted as something you want to workshop. Is that how it works?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right.
You have to submit they get about 3,200 applications per year, and there's about 90 students selected to stay there for their 10-week course.
Okay, now wait a second. So what I understand now is that you just got back from this.
Yeah, but I just did like an abbreviated executive visit.
Okay, because what I was about to say is that means that I should be impacted by something you just did because I'm a member of 1 billion people. Like, what is your project? I'm really excited. I'm a little nervous now.
I'm within your billion target, I think.
I'm more nervous now because I've
got plans for you guys.
Cool.
So their primary program is their like graduate studies program. You did the executive program.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about that.
Well, basically that's where they get all of their faculty. They give you like actually I did only a 2-day version of it. So they have like these people from all different industries give like they usually spend a day. We had like maybe an hour-long lecture by these guys, or a 2-hour-long lecture. So they basically took a fire hose and just sprayed us for 2 days straight. But it was amazing the content that we still were able to grasp from it. We came out of there thinking exponentially in 2 days. They rewired our brains completely. Everything that I'm thinking, everything that I ever thought about the future, it's wrong. And I'm like, it's been wiped clean, and I'm starting over. And I'm on everything that I'm doing right now today is being affected by what happened to me that weekend.
Oh, okay. So what I feel like I need to know what changed. Give me some.
Yeah, I feel unevolved.
Well, that's true for you, just in general. Let's go back to me.
The good news is that your brain is such that it, you can rewire that sucker, no problem.
Okay. Well,
so how is it? How have you been rewired? What did you give me some things about what are some, like, when you say you wake up and you, like, today everything you are thinking is different? I'm genuinely I'm interested. What is it?
Well,
how has it affected
I'm just trying
your
to
day?
Figure out what is my role in all this, and how does it even affect me? As it, what is my?
So you're thinking socially in a way that you weren't before.
Well, what I'm thinking about is all right, what are the odds of all this stuff lining up for me and in my age and what's going on there? Like, what is the bigger picture? And because certainly whenever there's new technologies coming online, billion-dollar industries are going to be wiped out overnight. New billion-dollar industries are going to show up. There's going to be massive disruption. And so how can I help the world prepare for the disruption that's coming? And go through a paradigm shift in order to grasp these concepts so that they can adapt and kind of be the survivors of the new era.
I think I really like that because I don't necessarily think, I'm trying to put this back into my own sort of perspective, having never done this, but I don't necessarily think that we need to fear the coming robot apocalypse. But what we do tend to operate out of a great deal of fear, just day to day. And when you say, there are billion-dollar industries come and grow and then fall, the reality is most of us are terrified not of these major sweeping, giants of industry, but of what impacts us on a very sort of micro scale, on a very day-to-day level, and on the things that impact us directly and impact our social experience and our cultural experience and our cognitive experience.
Yes.
And so, how does that change your day-to-day as a business owner? Like, how are you changing the way you do business as a result of your relationship with this, with this new way of thinking?
Well, what I'm doing is I'm trying to think of, because I'm an artist.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm thinking of is, well, how can what I do as an artist, maybe do a little shifting in my audience, as we kind of prepare and think, exponentially. That's kind of what I'm doing is, how can I kind of shift people's perspective? And I'm thinking about even collaborating with other artists and other mediums as well, and create experiences where people can kind of like see this story, where we're headed, like where we came from in the past, and this curve that we're on going towards the future, because and create a positive outlook for it, because it is an age of abundance. That's the good news, is we're actually going to solve the world's problems in a huge way. We're going to create we're going to have enough energy to provide for the entire population, and then some. We're going to have enough clean water for the entire world. It's only going to be a few $1 billion to supply Africa with all the water that they need.
Do they deal at all with the sort of dark side of the technology sort of revolution?
Yeah, I mean, they had speakers from every category. So we had somebody that was representing the FBI, because obviously there's the ability to one person to affect 1 billion on the good side is also on the bad side. There are bad guys that can now affect people at a larger scale than they ever could before.
Well, and I'm thinking of the implications.
You're thinking of Roger Ailes. Is that what you're about to say?
I wasn't, but I really would like to see what you want to talk about.
Okay.
I'm thinking about things like corn. Yeah, I'm thinking about things, the broader situation that is going on in the food that we eat, and the technology that has allowed great great abundance in the food that we prepare that, as it turns out, as we're learning, isn't food anymore. And it's a result of a technological and an economic innovation that happened 30 years ago. And today we are seeing it that we're making a lot of people sick. And so, I'm interested in how an organization like Singularity University and the message actually approaches the betterment of all humankind at what cost.
Yeah, they did talk about biology and food and all that, and we're just getting better at it. We're finding out what's the damage, but we're closing the gap between something new that we're experimenting with and the results of it. We just cracked the first genome. It took billions of dollars to do that, and we can now read our genome sequence. You can actually get yours read today for about $2,000. And what that will do is tell you, what your body might be lacking, or what it has an overabundance of, or what might be a problem if you want to add certain supplements to your system. So we're going to be able to figure out what good food is for us, and we're actually going to be able to print it with a 3D printer. We can actually print our own food.
Well, see, now that just screams to me the potential for danger.
Ray Bradbury, did you mention his passing? That's craziness.
That brings I think to myself of myself as a pretty progressive guy. That scares me. I would rather put a computer in my brain tissue than print my own food. How's that?
Well, yeah,
cognitive dissonance.
They're making synthetic muscle right now, so we could actually eat muscle without having to kill anything.
I would rather have synthetic muscle installed in my system than eat a Twinkie. Right, that's cognitive dissonance right there. We just defined it.
I gotta say, I think that the key concept here that you guys both kind of talked about, but this concept of fear. And Pete, you're getting into sort of the hard truths of this sort of, I guess, if we're going to say wow, this rapid progression of society, we are just the amount of progress between point A and point B, 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, 20 years ahead, it's such a massive and exponentially, I guess, greater advancement and speed of advancement than ever before in the history of the planet. So it's, that's all very fascinating, but it does boil down to fear. So I'll throw this out. I was explaining to someone the other day that, my son, I have a 9-year-old son, and I took him snowboarding this year, and he had lessons, and I had taken him skiing before. I took him skiing as early as age 2, which, did nothing for him. I just sort of held him and it was whatever. He didn't learn to ski. But this year he made real progress. And when I boil down what that means, we can talk about skill, or we can talk about, the ability to get down the mountain. But the truth is the progress was the elimination of fear. And the fact that his confidence in his ability sort of, one-upped, I guess, the fear that exists. And I was mentioning to somebody, that's a beautiful thing, and it's great, and next ski season is going to be wonderful. But it's the problem with taking, say, a 25-year-old who's never skied before up on the mountain and trying to teach them to ski. It's not that they can't ski. It's that the entire experience for them is one of fear. Yeah. Period. It's all fear-based. You take an adult skiing and they cannot get past fear easily. And it prevents them from either enjoying it or learning or really accepting the fact that they aren't in complete control when you're skiing. It's a funny sport that way. And that's why I think for adults, it is so, sort of overwhelmed by fear, is that you can't dictate everything that happens. You have to sort of go with the mountain, and you know what I mean? It may be 30 feet from this point that you might be able to stop, but it's not this point. And that scares people. Just, that's just, it's not until they overcome fear that they're going to enjoy a sport like that. And it's fun with children, because they overcome that so quickly, and it changes everything.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's part of the shifting that's got to occur for us to accept this disruption, is not to fear it. And 80% of all doing anything is psychology. 20% of it's the skills and the mechanics. So if we can get past, get around the psychology of stepping forward, then that's gonna be enormous. And that's kind of a problem right now, because most of media, all of their content is fear-based, and that's kind of where they get their, that's what they say, if it bleeds, it leads. I mean, so they're putting out a lot of negative stories when it's really only 10% of what's going on.
Yeah, that keeps me up at night, actually.
It does.
Yes, this whole notion that people want to be fed the fear that is holding them back.
Yeah.
That bothers me.
That's going to be the other thing. Somebody's brain is going to break out and go, you know what, we're going to create new platforms for people to get their media and their information, and it's not going to be fear-based. I mean, these are other necessary changes that are going to be happening. This exponential growth isn't just in technology; it's in all different areas. Their goal is to also completely disrupt education. We need a new education system. The old system isn't working.
Isn't there like a strange comfort for people in fear?
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing that you bring that up, particularly in this conversation around media, because, my background is in media, and for years, the real fear was the filter society, right? Where technology, the sort of media singularity is that we would have the number of communication channels that was increasing exponentially would meet up with the technology or the filtering technology available to us, and at some point we would reach that singularity when every individual would be able to totally control the signals, and that would completely destroy the media industry, because then people would only go for the news they want, and they would filter out advertising, and they would filter out all this stuff, right? They would filter out all the crap, and we hit that point. We hit that point with filtering, and it turns out all people want is Perez Hilton. And as it turns out, we're not that smart. And what we feed ourselves is not the most healthy information, just as it is generally not the most healthy food. Like our instinct is wired for the sweet stuff, whether that's and the salty stuff, whether that's our media or what we actually ingest, and that's a real danger. And I think that's it is the largest determinant of cultivating the culture of fear that we have, because what we naturally feed ourselves is the stuff that is not that great for us.
Yes,
there you go. I'm done.
That's a good point. I mean, and that what's going to happen though is the disruption that's coming is going to kind of force people to change. I mean, we're going to, as a collective conscious, I mean, we're like so far down below that inflection point of this exponential turn that it's almost like we've been kind of incubating as a collective consciousness. And have you guys sensed that there's some kind of a shift going on in the world, some kind of dimensional shift that we're experiencing right now, or do you think that we're just the same dumbed down like civilization right now?
Well,
I got to say it's a mix of both.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a certain degree context. Like I could tell you, I feel like there is a shift, but I live in Portland, and we're all sort of weird.
Well, in Boise, I got to tell you, this is the most enlightened society in Idaho in general. It's nothing but pure enlightenment here.
Oh, that's great.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I think it's honestly, Devon. Yes, I mean, I think there's no question. I think this has been true to some degree for most of our lives. That it's the thing that when you're talking to certain people, you get this, and it drives me crazy. But you hear it all the time, especially in, say, a more conservative society or culture or whatever. But that there's this moral decline. That there's this acceleration of moral depravity, that what we're experiencing is leading to the end, or whatever, that it's that all of this I don't know, all of the advancements of the last 20 years basically boil down to sin on a larger scale. You can pretend people don't talk like that, but people wake up every day and believe that. Lots of people do. And I guess, so we have all around us, not just the fact that advancements are happening on a grand scale and that it's all very rapid, but you have people's response to it, which to me is sort of the dumb part of it. Like you said, I mean, do you guys think like this or this? And I think, well, yes, there is this huge shift. And I think it's, if you sort of step back and say, holy crap, look at this iPhone and look at everything it does. And when I was 10 years old, I couldn't have dreamed of a computer the size of my house that could have done this stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's in my pocket. It's insane. But the response to it is very much like problematic, I guess.
Well, I mean, I think there's definitely, everywhere I look, there's different signs of, well, I mean, the fact that we're in 2012, everybody's talking about the Mayan calendar. I mean, this year especially, there is more of awareness of like something going on. And I'm really happy to see some of this going on. And there's a resistance to it as well. Like some people say, there's a war on consciousness. There's all these conspiracy theories, and how the elite, they want to create trouble, and then they come up with the solutions for it, and then we all think they're great, and we just want to be led and all that. But I think that what's going on right now is the metaphor I like to think of is birth. When a mother gives birth to a child, like there's a certain resistance in the body to it, but that's important, that's necessary, for a healthy birth of that child. So all the kind of little resistance that's going on right now, it's important, but because we're about to give birth to a new consciousness.
I'm just going to let that one sit.
Yeah, I was just going to say, wow, I just got hit in the face.
I don't have an immediate response to that.
It's what's interesting about that discussion is we operate sort of culturally at our most natural. I think our sort of default state is really at the fringe. And that's what allows us to create as a culture things like, Fox News and MSNBC, right? I mean, we operate sort of at the fringes. It's very difficult, or maybe I should even say NPR, I mean, it's very difficult to say, there is no such thing as fair and balanced, because we don't really, in our heart of hearts, want to exist in a place where there is fairness and balance. We don't know how to do that as a culture, and we find discomfort and discord when the closer we get to fairness and balance, as evidenced by our sort of cultural history. But in many respects, it seems like the mission of Singularity University is to sort of put that aside and say, let's push not only the technology, let's push not only our sort of grandiosity in the way we think about these projects, but let's push our comfort zone in dealing with this idea of cultural ostracism. Let's really do our best to say we're going to impact 1 billion people, and not all those billion people agree on anything. but they will agree that we've impacted them in some way, shape, or form, and that that's going to breed significant change. Whether or not you agree with the way Google handles your search results and the way Google handles the impact that you have made on your website through your audacious use of search engine optimization tools, you cannot disagree that Google has fundamentally changed global culture.
Yeah.
Which we should fear unless we trust Google.
Exactly. And that gets back to my point about corn, man. I love the fact that there's an iPhone in my pocket that can do things that formerly a computer the size of, Trump Tower would have had to do, but it's also giving me testicular cancer.
Oh, that's what that is.
In the future, we don't need our testicles. So.
Because of nanotesticles.
So don't worry about that.
It's fun to stop and think about all the imagine though. Okay, most people are just let me kind of throw out the analogy though, so that people get about this linear versus exponential. Just to sum it up, if you were to take 30 linear steps, you basically get across the room. If you take 30 exponential steps, it's 26 times around the earth. And that's the speed of how change is happening right now. We don't really understand that. So if you look back 100 years, we lived half as long as we do now. So now if you were to go the next 100 years, is it going to be double? No, it's going to be quadruple. So think about the possibility of living for 400 years. What is that going to do to the institution of marriage and morals and family and all kinds of things like that? Like our sins of the future are going to be different than they are right now. We're probably committing all kinds of sins that that we don't think are sins, but the future people, they consider them sins.
Wow,
and vice versa.
That becomes did they deal with this the topic of sin at Singularity? That seems notoriously anti-Kurzweil.
Well, they actually mentioned it. I mean, think about the Minority Report. I mean, there's some truth to that stuff. I mean, the groups that you hang out with, we're still like our president. We look at his pastor that he grew up with. We look at all kinds of things now that we didn't normally worry about 20 years ago.
Well, that's what I get back to. Like we talking about sin brings up the sort of nature of religious debate and how how whether or not you believe that morality is necessarily a religious structure, and what it means to do good versus to do bad. Exactly. And I'm not sure. And so how much of that sort of discussion goes into this sort of technological singularity.
Well, currency is going to be changing, and it's there. We're going to have rules about what's value and what's not.
Yeah. Well, you look at the great. There's a great book. It was the Woofy book. Did you read the Woofy book? It's not the Woofy book. It's Down and Out in the Magic Kingdom.
No.
That was a great book where currency was essentially.
Did you read that one on 3 times speed? Is that one of your books on?
Yeah, but I read it 3 times, so it actually counts as reading it once. Really slowly. No, it was. It's a terrific book where currency is actually reputation, and you are, it's all about a reputation economy, and the better you are in the world, the higher your Woofy score, and the more the more access you have to the world around you.
Right. I didn't hear that book being referenced, but we talked about that. We talked about cool points, like Facebook is like literally going to be like a virtual nation state, and the currency for Facebook was cool points. When you go around doing good stuff or whatever, you get cool points. I mean, you never know how things are going to.
Likes, fans, and friends become the new currency, whether or not we like it.
So Dale Carnegie, were he alive today, would sort of do a redo of how to how to gain friends and influence people.
How to win friends and influence people.
Yeah, how to get likes and
Right.
increase your friend count.
Exactly.
That's the core lesson of Singularity University, unfortunately. Speaking of cultural decline.
And Carnegie may have been all over that. We don't know, right?
Your grade is
but it is.
measured
I
in
got to tell you,
score.
and Pete. Okay, so it's been a little bit since I've taught a class. I know you're currently teaching, and on occasion you have people who are younger than yourself that you are teaching in the classroom. Is it just to me? It's fascinating to watch when I'm teaching a class and students have their laptop and their iPhone and they're researching what I'm talking about while I'm talking to them. That is a really interesting change from what might have been possible 20 years ago.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting point. It gets back to something Devon said a while ago, which is this nature of sort of how we let accessibility devices into our lives. And so, we may have accepted that hearing aids and optical sort of corneal implants, or not corneal, but LASIK, for example, is those are all okay. But in terms of education, traditional educators have a real problem with having laptops and phones open. But how is the laptop and phone any different than as an accessibility device in education than a hearing aid is to somebody who has trouble hearing, has hearing loss? My experience in the classroom is, and now I teach almost exclusively online. I don't do really, I haven't done any classroom teaching in a couple of years. And my experience is the responses that I get to the questions that are posed online as a result of having this always on accessibility and the ability to get deeper into research in sort of real time. Ends up being much more sort of robust, and the conversations end up being much more robust and interesting, because students don't necessarily need to or find themselves having to remember, data. They can find the data, and their job is to create or is to connect discrete sets of data to make new, more powerful connections, right?
Oh man, that is so fascinating. Because I remember a time, Pete, I know that, there's been an evolution in online teaching. And I think early on, some institutions were able to sort of grasp a very interactive, asynchronous, almost sort of conversational teaching modality that many people thought was superior to the, at least to a pedagogical, classroom experience. But a lot of traditional institutions were basically putting lectures online and calling it an online education. And I've seen some really interesting, like the Khan Academy, for instance, like really fascinating changes in online education and interactive or interactability, I guess. Because that whole point you make, Pete, about you're teaching and people have access to information that brings something that elevates, you're not so much teaching as facilitating, and the dialogue is at such a high level because of the information people bring to it. And if you put that in, a more traditional standard, I guess, a classroom of say 20 people, you walk in as an instructor hoping that somebody read the material beforehand, because the conversation is very different when they bring their ideas and their interpretations into the classroom and everyone's teaching each other rather than you trying to teach them what they should have read.
Yeah. This gets to the idea of changing the paradigm. And it's something I've been thinking about since I discovered this amazing thing. If you go to mars-1.com, mars1.com, have you heard about this project?
No.
I think this is inspired by SpaceX as well, to get back to what we were talking about when we started. Think about this. When we first sent people to the moon, one of the core tenets of that, one of the requirements was that we get people into the space program and we send them to the moon and bring them home, right? Sending them there and bringing them home were equally important in this project, right? So that's the framework. And so now we're trying to send people to Mars. And NASA has long struggled to send people to Mars because they got to put them in the space program, get them all dressed up for the ball, send them to Mars, and bring them home. But now we have this this growing commercial space industry, right? Where we are figuring out how to send people or how to send devices further and further into space. And so Mars One, you can just imagine these guys sitting around a table saying, you know what? We got to get to Mars. And what if we changed one of the requirements? And everybody says, well, like what? What are the requirements you would like to change, Dr. Joe Engineer? And Joe says, what if we don't bring them home? Right? Knowledge bomb, right? All of a sudden, the entire project changes when we find people who are willing to not go to Mars, but move to Mars, right? We are no longer, this is a shift. This is the westward expansion. We're not looking anymore for astronomer or for astronauts to go to Mars, work there, and come home. We're looking for colonists. And that changes the nature of discovery when we're able to change tilt the discussion. And I think that's one of the things that really celebrates everything that Devon has sort of brought to the conversation this morning, which is about, the nature of the Singularity University and what the mission is. I mean, when we change the discussion, it changes everything.
And this may or may not be a relevant point. I don't know, to help further that idea, but, I'm stuck with Steve Jobs' proclamation that one of the greatest change agents in life is the realization of death. And as you were talking about, colonization of Mars, I'm thinking about The Walking Dead. And I'm, by the way, now reading the graphic novels. I'm on volume 10. And
so good. Oh my
so
gosh.
Fantastic. But one of the things you watch in this interaction that's going on with these people is that part of their paradigm shift is, hey, you know what? We're probably not going to live very long, and it just sort of changes. We talk about fear. Well, your fear increases, in my opinion, if your desire to live is, 120 years, you want to be very, very careful. But if you feel like, you live in sort of a Walking Dead environment where life is just sort of fleeting and it comes and goes and you may not be around forever, a whole different reality comes to the forefront. And that's maybe sort of a negative place to go with it because I'm bringing in The Walking Dead. But I do think that, Steve Jobs saying like, I think all of us are going to have to chew on that for a long time. Like, how did he really view that? Because he really was trying to change the world through technology, but, and he felt like everything changed when he knew he wouldn't live forever.
Yeah. Well, and that gets back to, so we were talking about fear, and we're talking about the risk that comes from technological innovation, and having an understanding, I think where you're, spinning off of where you're talking about, having an understanding of how much risk you are able and willing to undertake, for the good of your project, for the good of your initiative, for the good of affecting 1 billion people, really is a core kind of definer of your success.
Pete, am I on the right website? Right, Mars with an S-1.com. This is just paintings. How did this relate to your?
I don't know. I'm at mars-1.com/en.
Huh.
And there's a little video. They're going to send the thing to the. Try. I don't know. Is it? Do you have a www? This one does not. That shouldn't relate. Are you sure you're at mars-1?
Okay.
ONE.
What's that little thing called? The little graphic in the URL window. Is yours a lightning bolt?
No. One ONE, not number 1. ONE.
All right. Well, I got to tell you, Mars-1, the number is interesting as well.
It's like H.R. Geiger.
Devon, you should check that one out.
Really?
Interesting art. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Mars-1. Wow. Somebody was on the URL grabbing on that one. Yeah. Smart. Smart move. This
So,
is beautiful.
anyway.
Human settlement of Mars in 2023. I don't want to go.
I do. I want to take the family.
Well, that's something else we talked about is, that we're at 7 billion people right now on the Earth. Imagine 7 billion people growing at an exponential rate.
Yeah.
We either have to like put a number on how many kids you can have, or we have to expand off the planet.
Yeah, and I mean, there are countries that do that, and obviously China is one that has a noted, or at least had a noted requirement for copulation.
Well, yeah. Imagine if I'm living for 400 years on the planet.
Yeah, that becomes a real challenge.
And and I want to have 8 kids, and I want all my kids. I'd be still alive while my great grandkids are alive. So, maybe it's time we start sending guys with a one-way ticket to Mars.
Well, or there's this other piece though, which is part of Kurzweil's singularity is that we may not exist. And this gets on yet another another significant question. We may not exist as biological creatures one day, and what happens when we exist as when our identity is as much data as it is skin and bones? They talk anything about that?
Well,
this idea of backing up your identity to a computer.
We did, we kind of talked a little bit about it, and it was fun because I got to ask questions. We were talking in the biology portion. We were talking about synthetic bodies and cloning and things like that, and and I was like, well, you guys didn't talk about avatars. Can we transfer my consciousness to another synthetic body? And the guy was, first of all, it's just great to be in a place where you can ask a question like that with a straight face.
Yeah.
And then have the person, respond in a very intelligent way. Say, very good question. We're not sure that if consciousness is just awareness, if it can be transferred, it might just be based on, your own memories, and experiences that are unique to that particular body. But then again, what is consciousness? I'm not even sure that I'm who I am when I woke up this morning. So we don't really fully understand consciousness not that well yet. It might be this sort of vapor that goes in and out, and experiences these bodies and memories for a time, and then it goes back out again every day. Or is one big global vapor that is running all these bio machines. But anyways, you're right. We're probably, in order to live that long, our bodies really weren't designed in that way, and we're going to be altering them significantly. And who knows what we're going to look like.
Well, I vote for the computer scenario. Man, what I would give to just be on the network. Remember the Lawnmower Man? That's what I want to be.
Reminds me, I just watched Tron, the original, the other day.
Oh, I'd do that.
Oh, I love that movie.
I'd do part 2 with that girl in white.
You'd be Tron You'd be Tron 2.0. That's you jump into that.
I'm saying the girls were hotter in the
in Tron 2.0.
in the remake. That's my only point.
Well, this
All
is
right.
awesome. Devon, where can people find out more about you and your art and your work?
Well, I mean,
you've got your website, right?
Well, I have a website called StanfieldFineArt.com. That's from my gallery. Mm-hmm. My art isn't on there right now because I'm trying not to compete with the other galleries that are carrying my work. But I guess you could. I think I'm doing a show in Vail next month at the Masters Gallery. I think you can see my work on their website. Darn, I don't know what their website is. I think it might be Masters Gallery. Anyways, Google Vail and Masters Gallery.
MastersGalleryVail.com.
Yeah.
That's where it is. And season of shows and artists. There it is. What is that? Is that a Michael? What is that in front? There you are. I'm looking at you right now.
Cool. Otherwise, you can see my stuff on my Facebook. Just join my Facebook.
Is this your stuff? The Audrey Hepburn stuff, and I love the Batman stuff.
I work in the style of pop art, so
I'm digging that. I could get sucked into this. Oh, Marilyn with roses. Are you kidding? Well done, sir. Well done. Your art speaks to me.
Great.
Great. This looks like a good show. So mastersgalleryvale.com. We'll put a link to that.
Or Devon Stanfield on Facebook.
Or Devon Stanfield on Facebook. Excellent. Dane, what about you? Do you want to talk about where you are?
Oh man, I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that's the truth.
I'm in a weird place.
What's your clout score today?
I'm negative, man. That's what I'm troubled by. I'm digging myself out of a hole, and it's morning.
I hate clout. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So strike10media.com.
Strike10media.com. All right. Well, people, thanks for listening to our really philosophical show. I would like you both to know that for the duration of this conversation, I have actually been wearing rose-colored glasses.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm wearing a visor.
Yeah. I heard I went to coffee with a psychologist friend of mine who shows up at Starbucks wearing rose-colored, like John Lennon, kind of round glasses. And I said, what are you doing? He says, oh, man. No, seriously, the rose, the tint, it changes your brain. So I don't know what the change is, but I'm doing it.
I'm up for it, man. You got me doing a stand-up desk. You can get me in rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, totally.
Is he got you on that stand-up desk?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Love the stand-up desk.
That's great.
Awesome.
All right, gents. Good talk. Thanks for joining us, Devon, and
bet.
Thanks for sharing your Singularity University experience.
You bet. It's fun.
All right. I'm out of here. Dane, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.